plenary. Just a few house rules. Our guests, we acknowledge your presence here, but would just like to pass this message that you may not participate in the proceedings of this debate. In part, that are the rules of the National Assembly do not allow you to participate in any form, whether it's clapping of hands or usage of cameras and phones for your photos. I hope we're gonna work well together. You are very welcome. I'll now ask the secretary to read the order.
Debate on vote number 4, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Appropriation Bill.
Thank you very much. I will now invite the Honorable Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Honorable Mkhize, to open the debate.
Honorable Chairperson, Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members, my colleagues, the MECs, Majesties and Royal Highnesses, the leadership of SALGA, and all executive mayors present, Chairperson of the National House of Traditional Leaders, Kosi Mahlangu, and all other traditional leaders and members of the House, religious leaders, the Chairperson of the Commission on Promotion and Protection of Rights of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Communities, Mrs. Mkwanas Kaluva, leadership of the Business Unity South Africa and PLSA, Black Business Council, and all business leaders present, the leadership of SAMU and leaders of our labor movement, other organizations present representing black professionals, fellow South Africans, and guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all. It is indeed an honor for me to stand before you to deliver my first budget vote as Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. In the State of the Nation address in February this year, President Cyril Ramaphosa invited each of us to participate in the building of our country with a clarion call, Tumamina, a song from our icon, Huma Segele. The call is a reminder that whatever we do as public representatives and civil servants in different spheres of government, we remain servants of the people. The budget vote debate is also inspired by the spirit of the new dawn that drives our current administration and the legacy of our founding father, President Nelson Mandela, and our mother, Honorable Albertina Sisulu, whose anniversaries we're celebrating today, this year. In 2011, Tata Madiba said, he warned us, and I quote, "As long as many of our people still live in poverty, in utter poverty, as long as children live under plastic covers, as long as many of our people are still without jobs, no South African should rest and wallow in the joy of freedom," unquote. Honorable Chairperson, local government is an important sphere of government because it's closest to the people. Everything happens in a municipality and in a ward. This is where people live, work, and play. The municipalities have a key role to play in nation building and social cohesion. They must lead in the reversal of apartheid, spatial planning, and coordinate integrated response of all stakeholders and give local communities a voice and respond to their service delivery needs. We'd like to mobilize community leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders, business, labor, youth, women, and civil society, and create a harmonious existence of all South Africans, everyone contributing to the success of the municipality and its people. COCTA advocates for inclusivity, integration, and partnership involving all departments, municipalities, and sectors of society as we build our municipalities. Local government is everybody's business. Substantial progress has been made in building our country's local government system in the past 18 years. The results have been visible in terms of the expanded access to basic services such as water, electricity, healthcare, housing, and others. The municipalities in the country have hard-working councillors and municipal officials. A lot of good work is being done. Paying attention to the weaknesses in the system is not an indication that there are no achievements. It's an effort aimed at improving the system. We launched Back to Basics program in 2014 with the aim of getting municipalities to do what they are supposed to do. Municipalities should be able to provide water, electricity, street lighting, cut grass on the verges of the roads and ensure refuse removals, repair potholes and ensure correct billing systems for both households and businesses. We want to build stable, well-functioning municipalities which have a strong political and administrative leadership. There should be functional council and oversight structures, a consistent spending of capital budgets and consistent unqualified audit outcomes and good financial management. Such services are a parameter used by investors to choose potential municipalities in which to locate their business. This is what COCTA is striving to achieve nationwide. Our municipalities must be able to provide these services in a professional and an efficient manner, putting people first. While great strides have been made, many challenges still remain in local government. Based on our assessment and reports, the performance of majority of municipalities is below expectations. And this is what we found. 7% of the country's municipalities are classified as well-functioning, 30% reasonably functional, 31% almost dysfunctional, and remaining 31% dysfunctional or distressed. Our major concern right now, therefore, are the municipalities which are becoming distressed or dysfunctional, including those that are regressing in audit outcomes. We're also mindful of the fact that problems in many municipalities may be structural. The advent of wall-to-wall municipalities extended the service delivery to previously neglected communities at the cost of the fiscus. The standards of service delivery that are expected in our constitution have to be funded to the same extent to all our people, by those that can raise alternative revenue, by levying rates and other charges, and by those that are entirely dependent on the transfers from national government. To find permanent solution to non-viable municipalities, we need to recommend that the next administration should conduct a comprehensive review of these wall-to-wall municipalities, focusing on the size and structure, the balance with the levels of public representation, backlogs, as well as economic considerations to arrive at an effective and affordable model that will be sustainable into the future. But looking at the weaknesses which are occasioned by human weaknesses, we've then decided to embark on an aggressive turnaround strategy to reverse the culture of impunity and inaction in our municipalities. National and provincial government routinely support and strengthen the capacity of municipalities to manage their own affairs, to execute their powers, and to perform their functions in terms of Section 1541 of the Constitution. In dire situations where municipalities fail, provincial governments intervene through invoking Section 139 of the Constitution, and a number of municipalities are currently being administered by provincial government under Section 139. These municipalities will be monitored with a view of ensuring that they improve and get out of Section 139 in 12 months. I hereby will table then the list of these 11 municipalities which have Section 139 invoked. Chairperson, to build functional municipalities, we have decided to initiate intensive recovery program which encompasses the package of clustered support in 3 focus areas, namely governance, service delivery, and financial management. This is in line with the ongoing Back to Basics approach that was launched in 2014. A major part of this approach revolves around ensuring good governance. Our people expect us to appoint competent managers to run municipalities. Some municipalities have collapsed due to the appointment of managers who do not qualify for the jobs that they are entrusted with. During the 2017-2018 financial year, 423 appointments were concluded with competent and suitably qualified senior management, and a total of 95 corrective actions were taken to enforce compliance where appointments were made in contravention of Municipal Systems Act and its regulations. A total of 1,120 candidates were screened by the department to advise as to whether shortlisted candidates appear on the record of staff dismissed and staff members who resigned prior to finalization of disciplinary hearings. We have developed a database that will ensure that the blacklisting of any managers who is dishonorably discharged from service in any part of the country in any municipality. Since the amendment of the Municipal Structures Act in 2011, a total of 1,651 municipal employees were dismissed due to misconduct and 130 resigned prior to the finalization of disciplinary hearings. Directorate of Priority Crimes Investigations, or the Hawks, are investigating a number of municipalities, and out of 311 cases being investigated, 98 are in court, 178 are under investigation, and the others are considered finalized, about 35 of them, therefore they are withdrawn. We're also concerned about the discovery that 1.6 billion rand of municipal funds were deposited at the VBS Mutual Bank against the advice of National Treasury. We support the forensic investigation conducted by the South African Reserve Bank into the deposits involving 15 municipalities. We're working closely with the South African Reserve Bank, and we've formed a joint technical committee working on this matter following my meeting with the governor of the Reserve Bank. I will then be soon convening a meeting of mayors, municipal managers, and CFOs to discuss this crisis and determine the way forward on those municipalities which are affected. Good financial management remains critical for our municipalities. Even though there's an improvement in the overall municipal audit outcomes, we're concerned about the 27 municipalities that received disclaimers. As part of our turnaround strategy, a strong focus will be paid on reversing these negative outcomes. No disclaimers will be tolerated. We will give all municipalities with disclaimers 1 year to put their house in order. We're also piloting an insertion of a clause in the contracts of municipal managers for them to be removed in case of disclaimers. Achieving clean audits should not be seen as the duty of the Chief Financial Officer and the Treasury staff, nor even the municipal manager alone. It's the responsibility of the mayor, the speaker, the councillors, and the administrative staff combined. We're setting very high standards for our municipalities because our people deserve the best. And again, I will table the list of those municipalities that are affected. COCTA has signed a memorandum of understanding with the National Treasury. The two departments will work together and ensure a coordinated approach to support prioritize financially distressed or dysfunctional municipalities. We have created a joint technical intervention team in terms of municipal structures, Municipal Systems Act and MFMA. We have also jointly identified 87 priority municipalities which are distressed, dysfunctional, which require urgent intervention. These municipalities face, amongst others, challenges of high level of community dissatisfaction, resulting in protest, political infighting, instability, inappropriate spending of budgets, high debts, and non-compliance with the rules, and incompetence, corruption, and high vacancy rates. We will table as well this list of the 87 municipalities. Failure to spend funds is a serious problem as it impacts on service delivery to our people. There are 226 municipalities that are receiving municipal infrastructure grant. Most do not have capacity to execute big infrastructure projects. On the MTF period, about 47 billion rand was allocated in 2017-18, which was 16 billion for the year, financial year. In the past 5 years, from 2012-2013, 3.4 billion rand in MIG transferred was stopped and was reallocated from underspending municipalities to better spending municipalities. This is not ideal as it has inadvertent consequence of penalizing municipalities with a lower capacity and hence punishing the poorer communities. We have decided to intervene immediately to resolve this matter. We will deploy technical experts from the MISA in the form of district technical support teams in 55 affected municipalities to provide support. These 55 are part of the 87 that are distressed, and each district support team will be constituted of engineers, construction, project managers, financial accountants, town and regional planners, as well as governance and administration experts, depending on the case. And 14 teams will be dispatched immediately, and the rest of the teams must be in place by the end of December, utilizing the adjustment of the budget. The teams will be expected to build permanent capacity in the municipalities beyond project implementation. This will bring to an end the problem of municipalities that fail to spend their municipal infrastructure grant. This is solving it for good. During his official visit to COCTA, to COCTA, President Ramaphosa impressed upon us to advance our skills development program in this sector. As part of promoting youth skills development, municipalities will be supported by 150 young graduates produced by the Municipal Infrastructure Agent. We welcome one of the special guests, our town and regional planning graduate, Vele Mukondiwa from Luheni village in Thulamela, Limpopo province, who is here amongst us. We also met Black Professionals Associations, recently engaged with them on their participation in drawing in skills to assist in municipalities. We'll hold further engagements, and I want to thank them for the support that they've expressed to us. To assist municipalities with financial and revenue management, the Department of COCTA of Governance, Cooperative Governance is rolling out the implementation of municipal specific revenue plan in selected municipalities. In addition, the culture of non-payment by consumers in municipalities affects and results in inability of municipalities to service creditors, mainly ESCOM and water boards. We appeal to the public to pay for their electricity and water, as failure to do so makes it difficult for municipalities to continue providing services. Government offers free basic services of water and electricity and others to indigent households. Our assessment is that has indicated that that database is unreliable, so Department of Cooperative Governance has signed an MOU with SARS to verify indigent registers. We anticipate that this partnership with SARS will yield desired results. It's unacceptable that municipalities owe so much money to ESCOM and water boards. As of 31st December 2017, total of bulk services owed by municipalities was 23 billion, 16 billion of which was for electricity and 7.4 was for water. This is according to the Treasury report. Amongst the top 5 provinces owing ESCOM are Free State, Mpumalanga, Northwest Gauteng, and Limpopo. We've also appealed to ESCOM to suspend the interruption of services to municipalities due to huge sums of monies that they owe. Interministerial team led by COCTA is working on this matter, and we're hoping that this issue will be resolved. There are many issues involving constitutional issues, systemic and structural challenges. We're working on all of this. I also met with Business Unity South Africa and Business Leadership of South Africa. They raised the issue of ESCOM quite sharply because of the impact it has on local businesses. And so we believe that this matter needs to be worked on so that we avoid the impact it will have on business confidence, economic growth, and job creation. It's also not advisable that this matter should be settled in court, but we are confident that they will find a solution together, as local government is everybody's business. Beyond governance challenges, some of the municipalities are beset with a high level of political infighting and instability. Unstable political coalitions in some areas affect governance. We're also concerned and pained by the loss of lives of councillors and municipal staff. KwaZulu-Natal has borne the brunt of the killing of councillors and other community leaders, and 2 others were gunned down this past weekend. We strongly condemn these murders. We must all take collective stand and say, here and no further. This must stop. Councillors are elected to serve and should be given the space to do so peacefully without fear. We have begun ministerial visits to various provinces and municipalities to conduct on-site inspections and consultations towards turning around the situation in municipalities as part of our Back to Basics turnaround program. We intend to visit a number of provinces from which reports of distressed municipalities have emanated. We'll soon visit the Free State following the reports of challenges in Mangaung and Maluta Pofung, which are experiencing financial management, particularly challenges with ESCOM. We'll visit KwaZulu-Natal following the increased number of Section 139 by the province and several matters requiring investigation that have been raised to me by the provincial government and the public. Similarly, another visit to Limpopo, where several municipalities are affected by VBS Mutual Bank debacle and outstanding issues such as tensions in Vuwani. We will also schedule another one to Mpumalanga, where municipalities are affected by large debt to ESCOM and where communities have reported sewage spillages such as in Governor Mbeki, Likwa, and Usugalikwa. We have also undertaken fruitful visit to Eastern Cape following a number of interventions, requests for interventions in a number of municipalities, KSD, Makana, Sarah Bartman, Walter Sisulu, Mnuma, Enoch Mgijima, Alfred Nzo, Port St. John's, Amahlati, Joe Qabi, Bizana and Matatiele. We just returned yesterday from Kisikama Walk in line with all of these issues. In the Northwest, 20 of the 22 municipalities has demonstrated deteriorating audit performance in the 2016-2017 financial year, and 12 of those municipalities are in serious financial distress, 8 of whom have actually received disclaimers. Previous Section 139 in 5 of those municipalities have not yielded. We've been working since October in 2017 in Northwest, so we'll be conducting district forums now and issuing directives in terms of Section 101A of the Constitution. These interventions start with immediate effect, and attention will be given to municipalities where there have been other Section 139 imposed in other provinces, such as some municipalities in Western Cape and some in Gauteng. We need early detection of community discontent and timeous response to reduce instances where community frustration bursts out in public protests and burning barricades. COCTA will be exploring acquisition of ICT capability and an early warning system dashboard. This capability will improve COCTA's effectiveness in supporting early interventions. Our National Urban Policy, the Integrated Urban Development Framework, IUDF, adopted in April 2016. During this visit, the last visit, our president actually focused on this matter and directed that we lead a charge around integrated urban development to decisively dismantle the legacy of apartheid spatial planning. Deputy Minister will deal with this issue, as it also will involve the work we started to do in the revival of small towns. We're also working with the Departments of Trade and Industry on the issues of local economic development involving small business development as part of the programs in COCTA. Our people also must benefit from resources beneath the land, and in this regard, we're dealing with the Minister of Mineral Resources. We have to reverse the resource curse which manifests such rich areas with violence and instability. Honorable members, community work program continues to make a difference in the lives of poor people and the unemployed. And in 2017-18, we allocated a budget of 3.6 billion and gave us 260,000 participants. Deputy Minister Nell again will elaborate on this, but let me extend a warm welcome to some of our special guests from this program, 2 early childhood development center teachers who have graduated thanks to the community worker program. They are Miss Catherine Dembane, who should be up there. Thank you very much. And Miss Gladys Malebia from the Northwest. Thank you very much. Just indicates that there is quite a lot of progress that you can make using this particular program. Our country is increasingly experiencing effects of climate change, and through our National Disaster Management Center, funds have been transferred to repair damaged infrastructure in various areas, sinkholes in Merafong and Gauteng, and also a lot to support Western Cape, which was hit by drought. And here, a total of 433 million has been allocated and dispersed, most of which went to the Western Cape. The mandate of the Department of Traditional Affairs is also to provide support for the Institute of Traditional Leaders. There have been several engagements with the President and the traditional leaders represented by the Kings and National House of Traditional Leaders, provincial houses, and Contralesa. And the President has given us a directive that the Minister should attend to a number of these matters. Most of the report will be covered by my colleague, Deputy Minister Bapela, but I must just indicate a few things that we have visited kingships and queenships around the country. And this has been very helpful in raising and dealing with some of the issues that were raised with the President. The issues of tools of trade, such as salaries, transport,
2 minutes.
Thank you. We have raised those issues and we're dealing with them. We also are embarking on a program to mobilize traditional leaders around the agrarian revolution. We will simply table the information on this one, as well as the bills that were involved in. Let me take this opportunity at this point to table Honorable Chairperson the department that has received a total allocation of 83.6 billion rand, which we table for both Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. I would therefore want to take this opportunity to thank all those who have worked with, particularly the ministers, the deputy ministers, the MECs, mayors, councillors, the CRL Commission, the Portfolio Committee, the chairperson in particular, and the rest of the members of the committee, as well as the directors generals and the DDG team in COCTA, and with all the assistance that they've given us as we draw up this budget. I also want to express my gratitude to my family, my wife and the whole family for the support, and all the members that have assisted and worked with us to bring us to where we are as COCTA. As we say now in COCTA, COCTA is moving forward, and we say forward, COCTA, forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We now call on the chairperson of the committee, Honorable Mdagane, to take the debate forward.
Thank you very much, Honorable Presiding Officer. The Honorable Presiding Officer, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers present, Honorable Members of Parliament, our guests, ladies and gentlemen. Presiding Officer, I'm honored for the opportunity to take part in the Governance and Traditional Affairs budget vote. I'm privileged to say that as people, we have every reason to be proud of our historic achievement of our first 2 decades of democracy. ANC support budget vote for. Honorable Presiding Officer, we are celebrating the lives of our most advanced and disciplined political detachment of the ANC, Utata uHolihlahla Nelson Mandela, no Mama Albertina Sisulu. Mama Sisulu and Madiba inspired a generation of leaders who have since swelled the ranks of a democratic movement in our government. To us, Mama Sisulu, Notata Madiba, have left huge footprints that tracks our history. Much has been done to enhance cooperation between the 3 spheres of government, but there's still much more to be done in this regard. Interaction and cooperation on policy issues and coordination of activities must become a second nature. This does not, however, mean that a government must be paralyzed by the need to consult in every twist and turn. As elected representatives, we have a duty to take decisions. Some decisions may be popular, but others may not be so popular. The fact remains that progress and development are dependent on well-thought-out decisions that are based on evidence-based approach. As a consequence of the victories we have registered during our first 2 decades of our local government system, we have laid a firm foundation for the new advances we must and will make during the next coming decades. The local government system of the ANC government is helping us to move even further forward towards a consolidation of national reconciliation, national cohesion, and unity. And a shared new patriotism born out of the strengthening of the manifesto, of the manifest reality of a South African that belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. While we live in a constitutional democracy, we also reside in a country that recognizing the values of traditional leaders. We know that Amakhosi are playing a very important role in rural communities. We have engaged them as a committee. We have engaged even the Khoi and San community. We have discovered that majority of our people throughout our country, they want to participate fully in decision-making processes of government. We hope, Honorable Minister, that this department is going to play a very important role in encouraging masses of our people and their leadership to feel at home and participate and add their views and very good proposal. This is what the committee has realized, that engaging with the people is a pillar of deepening democracy in our country. And we hope that all members of parliament would continuously engage members of the public. We must not be scared to be criticized by the public when we are wrong, because when they criticize us, they always criticize us out of love. They have never really chased us away from communities, precisely because they appreciate that we should play this role of encouraging and facilitating the engagement with us. Today, we should all ask ourselves, what have I done to improve the surrounding in which I live? Do I litter? Do I protect my surrounding? Do I spread racial hatred? Or do I promote peace and reconciliation? Do I buy stolen goods? Do I help reduce crime? Do I pay dues? Do I pay taxes or services fee, licenses? Do I expect everything to be delivered to me, or do I work with local councillors to create a better life for myself and my community? Together, we can turn our villages and towns, our cities and rural areas into parts of the new South Africa that we can all be truly proud of. Honorable Presiding Officer, the January 8 statement and the State of the Nation address indicated that South Africa is a much better place today than it was before 1994. However, there's still a lot of work to be done to achieve a truly non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous South Africa. It is our view, Honorable Minister, that these departments must play a critical role in ensuring that we integrate our society, because all integration happens at a local level. Therefore, we must encourage this and ensure that our people appreciate that all of them are South African, irregardless of their color, their creed, and their gender. The overriding special challenge is overcoming the legacy of apartheid, de-densifying and integrating urban and rural development nodes and activity corridors. This requires government department and sphere to work together in new ways that achieve coordinated impact. Honorable Presiding Officer, the South African Supreme Law envisage that a municipality may struggle to independently execute their mandate. It then made a provision in terms of Section 1541 that national and provincial government, by legislative and other measures, must support and strengthen the capacity of municipalities to manage their own affairs, to execute their powers, and to perform their function. We are convinced, Honorable Minister, that it is exactly what the President has declared in terms of the Northwest Province. We know that 12 municipalities, if I'm not mistaken, they're already under the management of the National Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. We are committing ourselves as a portfolio committee that will visit these 12 municipalities in the Northwest in the near future and engage with the leadership in order for us to assess the state of this local municipality. Looking at the support to local government, cooperative governance has been allocated critical role and responsibility. In terms of outcome 9 of the MTSF, we seek to bring about a responsive, accountable, effective, and efficient developmental local government system. Presiding Officer, we are building a society in which every household would have access to decent houses, water and sanitation, electricity, quality health care, and quality education. It must be a society where all feel safe and where no child goes to bed hungry. ANC government shall not rest until the type of the
2
society
minutes
is
of your
achieved.
time.
No matter how long it takes, local government is everybody's business. Local government is the exit to service delivery. All members of a portfolio committee appreciated the input of the department. We appreciate the accounting of the department and the entities, the CRR, the Municipality Demarcation Board, SALGA leadership, and all our traditional leaders. As a committee, we support this budget, of course, with the exception of a democratic alliance that reserve their right whether they support the budget or not. But we think they were very happy with the budget. There's no doubt in my mind that as Honorable Melham going to stand, they will support this budget because a very serious budget for us to transform our society. Thank you very much, Honorable Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson Mtagani. We now call Honorable Milham from the DA.
Not quite. Chairperson, let me start by welcoming Minister Mkhize to the portfolio. His predecessor, who for 3 days was, to quote Jacob Zuma, South Africa's most qualified financial minister ever, he left clown-sized shoes for you to fill. He also left a mess in Cogta for you to clean up, and it's going to be a massive task. Your first job, Minister, will be to address the finances of municipalities. The Minister of Finance, in reply to a parliamentary question of mine, admitted that 112 out of 257 municipalities had adopted budgets for the 2017-18 financial year where their expenditure exceeds their revenue. Now, there are many reasons for this. It might be that they are not collecting all the revenue that they bill. It might be that they are not prioritizing properly and therefore spending money on unnecessary activities. It might reflect poor financial management or corruption or improper budgeting. And what has this department and National Treasury done to resolve this? The answer is simply not much. Just 14 of those 112 municipalities have financial recovery plans. As a Democratic Alliance, we would deploy competent financial practitioners to all municipalities now to ensure that the budgets for the 2018-19 financial years are realistic, financially balanced, and sustainable. And while we're talking about municipal finances, Minister, one of the major problems faced by municipalities is the debt crisis to Eskom and the water boards. Minister, this crisis has been around since before 2014, and there is no movement on the matter. The interministerial task team has not managed to resolve it, and there is no way that the affected municipalities will ever be in a position to repay what they owe. Accordingly, I have this week written to Minister Pravin Gordhan at Public Enterprises to request that he pressure Eskom to write off municipal debt and interest older than 3 years. It is unlikely that anything that old will ever be recovered. A step such as this will immediately ease the financial burden on municipalities and ensure that the lights stay on for the residents and businesses who are being penalized for municipal financial maladministration. I urge you, as the chairperson of the Interministerial Task Team on this issue, to support this step. Chairperson, it cannot be denied that the spatial planning of South Africa's municipalities exacerbated the inequalities of our apartheid history. And yet, this budget has cut the funding for urban development planning by 45%. This is bizarre, given the focus on the integrated urban development framework and the dire need to redress and transform our spatial planning. The DA believes that this is an area where technical support is critical. Many municipalities lack the capacity to do this for themselves, and so we need to relook the budget and the mandate of an entity such as MISA, which seeks to provide technical support to municipalities, to include the spatial planning support so vitally needed to reintegrate our society. Minister, in 2015 and 2016, when the amalgamation of certain municipalities was first mooted, the DA warned of the implications. We weren't alone. The Financial and Fiscal Commission advised the Municipal Demarcation Board, the former minister, and the department that this was ill-advised because it would result in functional municipalities being dragged down by their merger with dysfunctional municipalities. We also warned that the costs of amalgamation, staff, systems, and the like, would be significant. Last year, I advised that the termination of the municipal demarcation transition grant would adversely affect the performance of these municipalities, and this has been borne out. As a result, they are not going to be able to complete their mergers in the short term. Now, perhaps the saddest line item in this budget is sub-program 5 of program 3, anti-corruption and good governance. With municipalities in the state they are in, the fact that this program is allocated a measly 5.5 million rand a mere 0.1% of the total departmental budget, is indicative of how seriously, or perhaps I should say, how carelessly the ANC takes this issue. Minister, corruption and maladministration is destroying our local government. It should come as no surprise that despite a warning from National Treasury, 15 or more municipalities placed deposits illegally with VBS Mutual Bank, worth in excess of 1.5 billion rand. Deposits they now stand to lose in their entirety. It should not be a surprise that these are some of the worst performing and most financially distressed municipalities in the country, including Vembe District Municipality and Greater Guyana Municipality. It should be no surprise that they are all ANC-run municipalities. And it should be no surprise that no action has been taken by your department to intervene and rectify this situation. Which brings me to my next point. Again, noting the state of municipalities in South Africa, your department has seen fit to reduce the budget for municipal performance monitoring by 82%. You have budgeted a total of 3.5 million rand for local government support and interventions. Your department, COGTA, has been sitting on the Intergovernmental Monitoring Support and Interventions Bill for over 5 years without bringing it to Parliament. Now, there's a great reluctance on the part of provincial executives and the National Cabinet to actively intervene and place dysfunctional municipalities under administration. Right now, with municipalities...
Honorable Miller?
I'm so sorry, Honorable Chair, I
What,
had a hand.
on what point are you rising,
I'm
Honorable
rising
Member?
on the point of privilege that, I'm rising on point of privilege that the Honorable Member that is speaking, please must address the Chair, not the Minister.
Okay, Honorable Member, continue.
Right now, with 87 municipalities in distress by your own admission, only 11 are under administration. And while we welcome the departmental action in the Northwest, we question whether due process has been followed in terms of Section 139 and whether this matter has been brought to the NCOP. I heard what Honorable Mdakane said, and I have some questions in that regard. Minister, does your department actively do anything to fix the problems, or do you put a Band-Aid on them and hope they will get better by themselves? The DA would support much more assertive intervention actions to sustain and assist these distressed local governments. We would ensure proper support structures to help with planning, budgeting, and implementation. Simply put, we would make sure that municipalities are able to do their jobs. Minister, the Auditor General has repeatedly bemoaned the lack of consequences for misconduct and maladministration. Your department is aware of hundreds of forensic investigations, over and above those that COGTA already has in hand, which lie unattended in municipalities across the length and breadth of our country. I will touch on just two. Tabachu local municipality has blocked all access to a forensic report in which councillors and officials are implicated. And Buffalo City has gone so far as to declare an investigation into sports sponsorships top secret. I am unaware of any legislation which permits this classification of a public document by a municipality where the information has no impact on the national interest. And then, Minister, the recent VBS scandal highlights the fact that councillors, municipal managers, and other municipal officials blatantly and illegally flouted the law, and yet there have been no consequences for these actions whatsoever. In the DA, we believe in accountability. We believe that our public representatives and officials must be held to the highest standards, and the taint of illegal or unethical behavior must have consequences. That's why we are willing to act decisively against those officials and public representatives, unlike the ANC, who have convicted felons sitting right here in Parliament who misused municipal funds. Corruption and maladministration have no place in South Africa's municipalities. The 603 million rand reduction in the municipal infrastructure grant will see an even slower rollout of municipal infrastructure upgrades. It will see fewer basic services delivered to the marginalized and the poor. It will see already failing sewage plants, waterworks, roads, and electricity reticulation fall into further disrepair. Minister, this is nothing less than shortchanging the people of South Africa. When one considers that 2.7 billion rand is budgeted for VIP protection and blue light brigades in the forthcoming financial year, it is clear that the ANC places its own sense of self-importance ahead of the needs of the poor. Chairperson, it's time to face a few facts. Local government in South Africa is in a dire strait. Municipal finances are a disaster. Municipal management is in a shambles, and this department is failing in its mandate to fix it.
Thank you, Honorable
Frankly,
Mellem.
the
Your
only party
time
that can
has
do that is the
expired.
Democratic Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mellem. We now call on Honorable Kalisa from the EFF to continue the debate.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Economic Freedom Fighters reject the budget vote 4 of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Local government is at the front line of service delivery in this country, and the sphere government is that the closest to the people. But local government in the country is on the brink of collapse and is synonymous with corruption, incompetence, and mismanagement. Municipalities are owed more than 138 billion by government departments, businesses, and households, while at the same time municipalities owe ESCOM 13.5 billion. In KZN and other parts of the country, we continue to see the violent assassination and killing of councillors, as the ruling party fight for who has access to state resources and kill all those who expose corruption. At the same time, we continue to see municipalities evict and brutalize those reclaiming their land, as municipalities maintain apartheid spatial planning. Local government perfectly illustrates the failure of neoliberal economic policy and the corruption and mismanagement of ANC and DA government. And is why we continue to see an increase in protest in communities. Added to this is that despite being central to service delivery, municipalities remain underfunded, with the 83 billion allocated to department this year not being nearly enough for the responsibility of local government. The reality is that this budget will do nothing to address the challenges facing local government. What is needed is a total rethink of local government and its role. Firstly, it must be given a larger portion of the national budget. People employed in municipality must be employed in merit and not because of who they know or what organization they belong to. The service provided by municipality must be insourced, with municipalities having their own internal capacity. There must be a greater consultation with communities on how decisions are made at the municipal level, instead of wasting money on external consultants. The people will always be the best advisors. Municipalities must also play a greater role in reversing apartheid spatial, so that land is returned and people are closer to work and have access to resources and service delivery. Not only will these steps improve service delivery, but they will lead to decrease in corruption and mismanagement, which have become normal under ANC rule. By taking away the ability to dispense with patronage at the local level, will also bring an end to the continued political killings of councillors and councillor candidates, which have taken the lives of many innocent, hardworking, and committed activities. Etswane, eJoburg, laseThekwini, kune problem yabantu overcharged amanzi kunye nombane. Into yenzekayo kuyaqikelelwa xa kuthathwa i-services, kuthathwa i-rates. Londo leyo iyenza abantu ukuthi bahlupheke, abantu abasokolayo bahlupheke. Kudala ke lento sizama uyifaka ku-minister na kwi-department ka-Cooperative, kodwa akho nto yenzekayo. Therefore, the EFF reject this budget.
Thank you, Honorable Kalisa. Honorable members, as per your speakers list, you'll realize that Honorable Ngwezi from the IFP is supposed to speak. We have agreed to move her name downwards because he's participating in another debate. We now call on Honorable Kubisa from the NFP.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Honorable members, thank you very much. The National Freedom Party wants to welcome the new minister in this portfolio, and we look forward to working with you, Honorable Minister. But Minister, you come at a time when there is this scourge of the killing of the politicians. It's a worrying issue. And we hope, therefore, that this is the issue that will be looked into closely, because it's really affecting all of us. Just recently, the IFP councillor, Mr. Sbuiselo Dlamini, was gunned down in Zululand. And also the ANC leader in the Renkonyeniloa South Coast, and also another leader at Wapata, Mr. Mchunu. And these are all issues that are worrying. And, but of course, there is a research that was done recently, and we don't want to associate that research with these killings, but the research points to the fact that there is a little bit of a lack of focus to the main issue of focusing on service delivery and working for the people, whereby the issue of tenders has come to play and the fight for position. And these are the issues that must be looked into because they are very serious. As local government is at the coalface of service delivery. And the main task of local government is to ensure that we serve our people. And the back to basic approach, Honorable Chairperson focuses on that, particularly that our people need services, water, roads, sanitation, houses, and etc. Because for so long, our people have been suffering. So we hope, therefore, that even our councillors should focus on this main issue. And the Auditor General in the previous years reported, Chairperson, that there is a lot of money, government fiscals, that is squandered and wasted through fraudulent means. And it was found also that even the councillors are so deep in tenders, and especially it was said most of them bring in their relatives and their colleagues to grind into the purse. So these are the matters that are very serious when we are talking about this budget, Honorable Minister. And we note that in the 2018-2019 financial year, Cooperative is located 83.6 billion. And we know that Program 3, which is institutional development, gets a bigger share of the budget. And among the priorities, Chairperson, of this department is to invest in skills development in municipalities.
Wrap up in a
And we've
minute.
already noticed that some MIC funding is returned because most of our officials lack skills. And of course, the issue of cadre deployment is affecting us. And also those officials that don't perform and migrated to other municipalities or departments, that issue must be dealt with. So the whole issue of corruption is very serious and is grinding into the marrow of our municipalities. And as the NFP, we say these are the matters that must be looked at. The issue of drought, and our dams must be audited to ensure, and we find out who exactly own the dams, because people are suffering only to find that there is one person who occupies the dam. For instance, there is a dam at Josini, and it's not helping many people around the rural communities. One person is owning, and other dams. About 3,000 dams in our country are in the hands of individuals. That must be audited because our people need water.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
Chairperson.
much.
We support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kubisa, Professor Kubisa. We now call on the Deputy Minister for Cooperative Governments and Traditional Affairs, responsible for provincial and local affairs, Honorable Nell.
Voorsitter, ministers en adjunct ministers, agbare lede, Molweni, goeiemorgen, Dumelang, Sanbonani, Avusheni, Tobela, Ndimash Cheroni, goeiemorgen, good morning. Ek vereenselwig my van harte met minister Mkhize se woorde van verwelkoming aan al ons geëerde gaste. James Sofasonke Mpanza wazalwa ngo 15 May 1889, sizokhuluma ngomhlaba nezindlu kamuva. South Africans are concerned about unemployment, especially youth unemployment, crime and corruption. President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared 2018 the year of unity, renewal and jobs. Daar is hoop in die land, die aktivistiese energie ontketen deur president Ramaphosa se roepkreet, Tumamina is vatbaar. Die visie en nalatenskap van ons eeufeesvierlinge Nelson Mandela en Albertina Sisulu inspireer ons. Daar lê egter 'n lang en uitdagende pad voor. Citizen surveys March 2018 say that 64% of citizens approve of President Ramaphosa's approach and 67% expect their living conditions to improve in the future. This national optimism and energy must be channeled into social compacts between government, labor, business, and civil society. Last week, during a visit to COGTA, President Ramaphosa emphasized that local government is everyone's business, that COGTA is an engine of government and the glue between the people and government. The community work program is a partnership to address unemployment, especially among young people and women, in the spirit of Tumamina. Minister Mkhize het gepraat oor die CWP se potensiaal om 'n landbourevolusie te ontketen. We're proud to report that in 2017-18, 95% of the 3.6 billion rand budgeted for CWP went to create 260,000 work opportunities, exceeding our target of 237,000. CWP is now active in 238 sites covering all local and district municipalities. Constable William Ferris, who joined CWP in Magareng, Northern Cape in 2012, says, "The community work program played a big role in the search to form myself into this confident, respectful, and obedient person that I am today. As time passed, I applied to the South African Police Services and got accepted in 2013. Now I get a warm feeling in my heart when I come home to see these youngsters still busy working in the program," close quote. CWP has reduced violence against women and children in Orange Farm, Cape Town, Tembisa, Ivory Park, Dankeschön, GIZ, Germany, and the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation. 16 young CWP participants with matric who were cleaning classrooms at schools now have grade R teaching diplomas. Ria Leboga, New Northwest University. CWP participants are being trained to establish cooperatives. Mille Grazia, City of Reggio Emilia in Italy, and the Department of Small Business Development. Skills development is important. In February alone, 343 participants from Chris Hani and Amatole in Eastern Cape received accredited training as artisans. CWP has experienced major administrative challenges. Since former Minister Pravin Gordhan delegated it to me in 2014, we've made it clear that corruption will not be tolerated. The turnaround has been slow but sure. Chairperson, the Municipal Demarcation Board makes a vital contribution to building developmental local government and to dealing with the spatial legacy of apartheid. The chairperson, Ms. Jane Tupana, and all members of the board whose term ends in February 2019 deserve a round of applause. Municipal capacity assessments for all the district and local municipalities will be done by October 2018. This will boost our Back to Basics and IUDF programs and guide future demarcations. Amendments to the Municipal Demarcation Act providing for greater community participation in demarcation processes and for appeals against board decisions are awaiting certification by the state law advisors. Let us also applaud the CEO, Mr. Mutoto Sigidi, and the MDB staff for achieving their 5th unqualified audit in a row. Chairperson, the South African Cities Network, under the leadership of Councillor Parks Tau, continues to be an intellectual dynamo supporting Back to Basics and the Integrated Urban Development Framework. The Cities Network has been at the forefront of the urban land question. Its urban land paper series, as well as recent urban land dialogues, has positioned it to play a leading role in the debate on urban land. A round of applause also for the staff and CEO, Mr. Stole Mbanga, for more than 15 consecutive unqualified audits. Chairperson, on Africa Day, 25 May, let us celebrate Africa's great cities, past and present, Timbuktu, Cairo, Alexandria, Great Zimbabwe, and Mapungubwe. The capital of Wakanda in the film Black Panther inspires us to imagine African cities of the future. We need cities and towns that are livable, safe, and resource efficient. Urban spaces that are socially integrated, economically inclusive, and globally competitive, where residents, especially young residents, actively participate in urban life. We need cities and towns that undo the legacy of colonial and apartheid planning, which strengthen the connection between urban and rural areas, cities which create jobs, especially for young people, and which take the role of culture seriously. To AfriForum, we say apartheid was a crime against humanity and our cities were one of its victims. The President has urged us to be bold and to lead the charge around integrated urban development to decisively dismantle the legacy of apartheid spatial planning. We need to deal boldly with the burning issue of access to well-located urban land, including the option of expropriation without compensation within the law and the Constitution. We need fiscal measures that attach a price to urban sprawl and the replication of apartheid spatial patterns which disfigure the soul of our nation. This is the vision of the Integrated Urban Development Framework inspired by our National Development Plan. The IUDF is our urban policy vibranium. So let us say Wakanda forever, African cities forever, IUDF forever. Implementation of the IUDF continues to gain momentum. Thank you to my colleagues in the IUDF Political Steering Committee, dedicated officials, and our local and international development partners, especially Germany, Switzerland, and the World Bank. Through the Intermediate City Municipal Support Program, the IUDF is being piloted in Umhlatuzi and Polokwane. Another 7 of the targeted 39 intermediate cities will join them over the next 2 years. SALGA is implementing the IUDF by spearheading the Small Town Regeneration Project with pilot projects in the Greater Karoo region. National Treasury's City Support Program implements the IUDF in our 8 metros. We're working with the Department of Human Settlements to localize the new urban agenda through the IUDF. The IUDF is being hardwired into a number of policy instruments such as the Metropolitan Built Environment Performance Plans, the Integrated Urban Development Grant, and the MIG2 grant. Regrettably, however, there's also been resistance to spatial justice and transformation. Natasha Mariam says in Business Day, 9 May 2018, that, and I quote, "Delil claims that her woes began in 2014 when she presented a document on transforming the spatial landscape of the city of Cape Town. She says her agenda would have done away with the apartheid spatial planning in the city and would have begun to develop it as a truly inclusive place to live," close quote. Mariam argues that quote, "the facts show that there is a real pushback against a truly transformative agenda in the DA.
2 minutes.
And the woke South African electorate can see right through it," close quote. While the citizens of Cape Town hunger for leadership, the DA and Delil saga has gone from Amate Nolimi to Yinkuku Nempaka. In Chivenda, it said, "Ndikari yobi kapere, mbwadza huva matswiya." It's a pot in which a hyena was cooked and the dogs bark at the hearthstones. This is happening when Mariam says, and I quote, "The ANC has President Cyril Ramaphosa, who simply has to swagger along the beachfront promenade in Cape Town to send traditional DA voters into a swoon," close quote. Now, without inviting anyone to swoon, we reiterate our commitment to work in partnership with all South Africans to realize the radical and transformative vision of our Constitution, to improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. In conclusion, we express our solidarity with the people of Palestine and support the withdrawal of the South African ambassador to Israel. Thank you to Minister Mkhize, Deputy Minister Bapela, Directors General, the whole Cocter family, as well as the portfolio and select committees, as well as my personal local government, my wife, Kim Robinson. I thank you very much.
Sithokoze mhlonishwa. Isikhulumo esilandelayo ngumhlonishwa Filtani waka UDM.
Order. Order. Can you give the speaker on the podium to proceed? Thank you. Thank you, honorable member. Order. Honorable members, can we keep quiet, assembly? Order. You may proceed, Honorable Filtan.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Poorly skilled municipal personnel continue to be a hindrance to the provision of service delivery. What makes things worse is the non-filling in of critical vacancies by some municipalities. Quite regularly, we're witnessing an increase in the number of dysfunctional municipalities. The irony here is that most municipalities with a bulging personnel purse demonstrate diminishing performance and service delivery. This, Honorable Minister, presents your department with a serious challenge that calls for your immediate attention. One hopes that your department is ready to face the dire consequences of poor service delivery that will inevitably follow the budget cuts on sorely needed infrastructure provision. This reduction should be accompanied by a corresponding reduction of the resultant redundant personnel. Think about it, Honorable Minister. Why keep people in employment when you have not given them a budget to do their job? Let me opine and state that there appears to be a need for some fresh strategic thinking on how to administer townships, whose residents react differently from both the suburbaners and rurals when dissatisfied with service delivery. Equality of citizens in front of the law, before the law, should not be equated with similarity of living conditions. More urbanization is rising on the horizon. The trend by failed communities to destroy what infrastructure there remains to be seen in their surroundings. This is precipitated by your government's failure to comply with Section 153 of our Constitution. The human rights conferred by Chapter 2 of the Constitution can only be realized through the CRL Rights Commission. Your department's persistent failure to sufficiently budget for the constitutional function send a clear message to the nation. It says, we, the ANC government, hereby declare our continued failure to uphold your rights. So go find solace elsewhere, and so they may come 2019. Most municipalities render only minimal support to small businesses and sport. Now, listen to the loud silence on these two aspects by both the minister and his deputy. None of them spoke to this. And we're always facing this problem of non-support of sport and small businesses. The 275,000 citizens of Nguma municipality continue to suffer under the yoke of not poor, but absent service delivery. Their plight has been exacerbated by the failure of both you and your provincial counterpart to give meaningful attention to their problems. That municipality has blown its budget on legal costs, fighting internal ANC factions in courts at our cost. Section 139A and B of the Constitution have been invoked with no positive lasting results. Section 154 of the Constitution is being frustrated by the confusion that rages in the bishop provincial offices. They fail to give this matter urgent, practical attention. You might have to fend off a Section 139C action if you don't look up and solve this problem. Your desperate decision to go for one big pothole in the heart of Makana municipality has left a big hole in the hearts of the despairing Nguma municipality. I am from there. We want you to come and solve the problem. There is no solution coming from that local municipality. They keep fighting each other. At this point in time, they hardly have funds for doing anything in the form of service delivery. What funds there are being used to save their cars from being taken away by the courts. So you need to take some urgent action right now. Failure to do that may mean that your government might have to step aside. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Filtane. The Honorable Mthetho.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much. Honorable Chair of the House, the Portfolio Committee on Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs has thoroughly, Chair, examined the budget presented by the Minister today. Our primary focus, Chair, as a committee is to play an active oversight role and hold the executive authority accountable to implement its strategic plans and meet their target as per the annual performance plan. Chair, this plan, it must be met at their highest, utmost best. It is, Chair, upon us to ensure that the resources that are deployed to implement programs are within the budget estimated and are utilized efficiently and efficiently demonstrating the value for money. Of particular concern, this point, Chair, are the strategic areas pertaining to the traditional affairs. And the chairperson of our committee has already outlined some key focus areas as he was presenting it earlier on, Chair. Chair, I want also to say that we are satisfied with the effort to take comprehensive, all-embracing posture in bringing the Khoi and San people within South African folder. The traditional Khoi and San leadership bill is now at an advanced stage, and soon the Khoi and San people will occupy their rightful place as equal partner and fellow country people in shaping the future of our country. Chair, the Gamojaji, Queen of the Belobedu people was recently restored and given official recognition, thus putting to the final rest in one of the longest dispute, Chair, that has been dividing the people. The Minister of Cooperative, through its Department of Traditional Affairs, is urged, Chair, to fast-track all outstanding dispute to envisage the leadership and stability in this sector. Another area of interest, Chair, is that continues to be the thorn in our flesh, is that of the cultural initiation of our young men and women. Over the past years, Chair, deaths of initiates have a significant gone down, but the department has made a commitment of zero death, and we expected that target to be reached. We hope that the cultural initiation bill and the attendance of this policy will provide much needed instrument to curb and stop this unnecessary loss of life. The Eastern Cape, Chair, continues to be one province that still registers fatalities, and special attention must be directed there, Chair. We need to find out what could be those ununique factors contributing to this stubborn incident that continue to bring misery to some families. We therefore, Minister, we need you to do everything in your power to reform and competence and integrity of the institution of traditional leadership to provide much needed leadership in this sector. The institution of leadership, of the traditional leadership and the faith community across our country are our hope to help and mobilize our people behind an agenda that confronts this permanent moral decay, criminal corruption, abuse of religion, and act of xenophobia that almost always occupies service delivery or other community posture. The government need to be seen to be embracing and participating of all the people in all stages of development to minimize senses of alienations and exclusion that drives people into desperate and destructive acts. We need to be seen to be planning with and for the people and allocating certain responsibility, accountable, and community to appreciate their community assets and jealousness. Chair, we supported also the program areas that the budget estimated that we will help to bring about much needed transformation and traditional leadership in the traditional leadership sectors. We also, Chair, wanted to say that in the recently that had happened, as a portfolio committee, we will forever remain resolute and vigilant in monitoring progress and efficiency effective as of us resources to ensure that communities, ensure the communities. We will also be imperative that the strategic relation between the social partner and all spheres of government come to bear on the concentrated and reduced weaknesses. Chair, we expect much more from the department. In exploring the department continue to set a sterling example with its positive audit. This must come and complace even with our national development program plan. As we traditional council, we support this program, Chair, and we hope everybody will support this program, Chair, because it's going to assist us in a number of ways and improve the lives of our people. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Vessels.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, we hear a lot of nice words and a lot of programs with very nice names that call on action, names like back to basics, words like there are substantial progress being made, those words used by the minister saying that there are still challenges, but not a lot of challenges, but only challenges. Minister, that is not true. Our local government in South Africa is in a crisis, and we cannot deny that. The state of local government has deteriorated to a level unknown to South Africa. The past number of years, we heard about back to basics. But what fruits did that program really bear? A lot of money was spent on that support program. A lot of money is spent on many support programs by many departments, provincial departments, Treasury, Department of COCTA, Department of Provincial COCTA, SALGA, and so forth. But there's little to no coordination between these support programs, and they don't bear any fruit. We see infrastructure deteriorating to such a level that it is horrible to actually think that the government can say here, and the chairperson of the committee can say, that we are proud of the progress being made. Have you been to municipalities? Have you been to rural municipalities, or are you confined to urban areas? Chairperson, the solution by COCTA over the past few years has been to amalgamate. When there's an unviable municipality, we amalgamate it with one that's doing a little better and creating bigger and bigger municipalities. The Financial and Fiscal Commission found in recent research that that is not a solution. And the minister should take note thereof, that creating bigger municipalities are actually placing both of those municipal units under distress, and it's not creating better service delivery. The other solution by municipalities to their financial woes are to increase their tariffs. But that is actually creating less and less paying residents. We are, en laat ek dit in Afrikaans sê, voorsitter, die goue gaans gaan ophou eiers lê. Die goue gaans is moeg eiers gelê. Die betalende inwoner kan nie net die heeltyd betaal en geen dienste kry nie. Support programs are not working, Chairperson, and thus there should be a complete rethink of local government. Control mechanisms are failing. We have the best legislation with regards to local government in the world. The MFMA is world standard. Many say our constitution is also the best in the world. But yet we fail the people out there. Why? Because there are incompetent officials, there's no political will, there's corruption and looting taking place every day. And the ANC government sits here and says, we are proud of the progress being made. Wake up, smell the coffee, and see that there is more than one service delivery protest daily in South Africa. Take note thereof and start addressing the problems. People are stealing the money. People say Nkandla is bad. The money that's being lost to corruption and theft on local government level is much worse than Nkandla or state capture or Gupta's.
Thank you.
We will not be left
Your time
with
has
any
expired.
resources if we continue on this road. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vessels. The Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, responsible for traditional affairs, Honorable Bapela.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize, Honorable Deputy Minister Andries Nel, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee Richard Mdaga, and all other honorable members of Parliament, MECs present here, executive mayors and councillors, Salga reps, Chairperson of the National House of Traditional Leaders, Nkosi Mahlangu, leadership of the houses of traditional leaders, inclusive of the Khoisan leaders, Abendlunkulu, Kingdom of the Zulu, led by Prince Buza, an advisor to the King, Dr. Fagazi, leadership of Contralesa, CRL Commission leadership, religious leaders and traditional healers, the business sector, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans. South Africa represents the most acute manifestation of the most of the social fault lines that define humanity's current challenges: race, class, gender, and geographic location. Income inequality and inequitable distribution of assets are at their most intense. Poverty and unparalleled opulence live cheek by jowl. Apartheid colonialism ensured that these disparities express themselves along racial lines, with gender and geographic location overlaying the canvas upon which these fault lines play out. That is from the quotation of the ANC Strategy and Tactics 2017. These social injustices are prominent and severe among the black people, and even more acute when you are female. And its ugly tapestry is evident in the apartheid social geography that can be seen in the townships and informal settlements, rural communities, and decaying inner cities. As we mark the centenary of Comrade Nelson Mandela and Albertina Sisulu, two of the most remarkable contemporaries but giants of our heroic liberation struggle, we are reminded by our former statements for the value he placed on the sector of traditional leadership. In there, no linger, Nelson Mandela and Mandla Langa and Madiba edges, and I quote, "But we must never forget, for the institution of traditional leadership is sanctified by African law and custom, by our culture and tradition. No attempt must be made to abolish it. We must find an amicable solution based on democratic principle in which allows traditional leaders to play a meaningful role in all levels of government," close quote. We present this budget vote for the debate cognizance of the previous commitments we made since the beginning of this term that is ending next year, and therefore will be taking this opportunity to give account of our ascent and of more hills we still have to ascend. Our policy priorities remains strengthening the traditional leadership institution, transforming the sector through development of policies and legislation, fostering partnerships to our sustainable livelihoods in traditional communities, promoting the cultural and customary way of life in accordance with the Bill of Rights, and promoting social cohesion and nation building. Significant progress around the above priorities has been registered. The traditional leadership sector has 8,241 officially recognized traditional leaders, and 9 are kings, 2 are queens, 2 principal traditional leaders, 829 senior traditional leaders, and 7,399 head men and head women. It is organized into 9 kingships and 2 queenship councils, a national house, and other 7 provincial houses that were successfully reconstituted within a record time. 33 houses of traditional leaders spread across provinces, and the 829 traditional councils. The Khoisan traditional leaders who enjoy observer status are also organized, although the finalization of the TKLB legislation will usher in a legal process to identify and duly recognize the legitimate traditional leaders of the Khoi and San communities. The institution has also registered gender transformation, with the women occupying key position in the National House of Traditional Leaders. There's a deputy chair there, but also seeing 53 head women, 122 female senior traditional councils, 2 queens,
and 2 provincial female chairperson and deputy chairpersons in provinces, and a National House Executive Committee members and 8 provincial executive committee members being women. Of the 56% traditional councils assessed, 6% therefore require urgent rescue and half are fairly stable. A capacitation program like the Traditional Leaders Training Program for traditional council and senior leaders is already in place, and also partnerships with institutions like the Anglo Platinum Mine and the National School of Governance are in process. We would appreciate an expeditious conclusion of all the bills before Parliament. The customary initiation bill and the policy guidelines will also help make critical intervention to stem the tide of fatalities during the initiations. We have brought this death substantially under control, although the Eastern Cape is still eluding us, and closer and special attention will be directed to that province as we move now to the winter season of 2018. The Royal Awards have been introduced and are an incentive designed to motivate and spirited commitment by the kings and queens who stand to be recognized and awarded for exceptional excellence in improving the lives of the communities. We anticipate the inaugural award ceremony towards the end of the year, and by then we'll be able to set the scene of a non-reversible trajectory. House Chairperson, the DTA is among the best performing departments and received unqualified reports during the 2014-2015 and 2015-2016 financial years, and a clean audit in 2016 and 2017. We commit to remaining a clean record when it comes to governance and performance area. I hope there will be a round of applause on that one. Of utmost importance is an exceptional performance in saving the sector in turn and help to impact the lives of the rural communities. In 2017, we hosted the Indigenous and Traditional Leaders in Dava and a follow-up session. All the matters raised and within the purview of the DTA were incorporated into the program of action, while other complex policy, legislative, and constitutional issues were referred to the governing party's National Conference for deliberation. The ANC 54th National Conference reached a landmark resolutions that provided leadership and guidance on critical matters that will help shape the future of the traditional leadership sector. Some of the key decisions include: 1, the land question. The land that is in the state hands, 13%, and available for distribution will be transferred to the Institution of Traditional Leadership. Modalities of ensuring the security of that transferred land and productive utilization of the benefit of the traditional communities will be worked out by the end of the year. Parliament has already addressed the broader land question, and the processes are taking place, and public participation have started, and we hope therefore that the traditional leaders will also take this opportunity and present their arguments there. Following the panel land summit, we must arrive at a point where the significant change in land ownership profile must take a meaningful contribution towards a greater food security and access to productive use of land to advance fundamental socio-economic transformation. Ukuphelisa indlala emakhaya, masilimeni, singeneni. And the minister has mentioned the issue of the agrarian revolution. I hope izinkosi zethu nabantu bethu abahlala neinkosi laphana bazoyithatha lethuba leli lokuthi sizame siyotshala, sihambeni siyofuya izimvu zethu, sikwazi ukuthi siqede indlala nokulamba emakhaya. I-agrarian revolution, uminister ke sikayishilo uzayilauncha towards the end of the year, sometimes this year, and siyathemba ke ukuthi sonke sizawusukuma siyolima, imali izofana ukuthi siyithole izawuba khona. The joint initiative by the DTN and National House of Traditional Leaders, led by Nkosi Mahlangu, through the United Royals and Kinship Holdings, will further consolidate our resolve around the agrarian revolution, introducing diversification with the technology use and the Internet of Things, mining beneficiation, tourism, ocean economy, media, property, the creative and heritage industry, and other viable opportunities that arises. And we'll be working with all other departments to achieve those goals. The issue of the planning tools, the SPLUMA, was also addressed. COGTA will consider and engage in participation dispensation that accord the institution of traditional leadership strategic status and not just treat it as a stakeholder, but an important enabler. The CPA Act will also be reviewed to address the weaknesses that undermine the land restitution objectives. Finally, Honorable Chairperson, please allow me to express my humble thanks to the President and Cabinet, the entire House, leaders in the provincial executive structures, the Chairperson and his deputy in the National House of Traditional Leaders, and the leadership of the provincial houses, members of the NEC of the ANC, my party, and its component structures, the leadership and members of the Alliance and fraternal organizations, and those in the ANC Gauteng province and the Johannesburg region, including political parties, the DA in particular, and the IFP, who, when the news arrived, then they visited my home to come and pay condolences when I lost my mother and my wife in a space of 28 days. In a brief space of a month, it was beyond devastation. Ordinarily, my wife will have been part of this occasion, and in her absence, because she has departed from this world, I dedicate this presentation to her. An undying and gentle spirit will continue to be a fountain of strength for and a wisdom for me. But shared problem and pain you demonstrated brought some relief to me, the children, and our families. Your support will forever be appreciated, and I will always be indebted to you. Lastly, my staff and the department in general has continued to be a source of strength and made it possible for me to execute my mandate. I thank you. Tuma mina nyavuma. Romana kya dumela. Do levua kya leboha nyabonga.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Our condolences. We now call Honorable Ngwezi.
Honorable Chairperson, the IFP welcomes you, Honorable Minister, and we wish you well in the task you have been given. As the IFP would like to start off by stating that we are in agreement with and are in support of this budget vote. The greatest challenge is that the people who are the drivers of transformation and development in our communities, especially councillors and officials, are falling victim to being murdered in the line of their duties at an alarming rate. Therefore, it is incumbent to COCTA and government as a whole to devise a sunset plan to ensure that such individuals carry out their mandated roles under safe and workable conditions. There certainly needs to be in place a better action plan to prevent these killings, especially in the high-risk areas of KwaZulu-Natal, where the killings have been more prevalent, and as well as some areas of the Eastern Cape and Limpopo. At the outset, I would like to pay a special tribute to those particular councillors, but also to Comrades Buiselo Dlamini, an IFP EXO councillor in the Zululand district, who was gunned down last Friday. These unsafe working conditions do not only rob innocent people of their lives and their families of their loved ones, who oftentimes are breadwinners, but also compromises service delivery in municipalities, playing a counteractive role in the visions and objectives of the department. These acts have put the Department of COCTA under disrepute, undermining its integrity and that of the people that are aligned with it. Chairperson, local government is riddled with overwhelming corruption that renders any initiative almost futile before it even gets off the ground. A lot more effective mechanisms need to be put into action in order to combat and to weed out the corruption at a grassroots levels. This needs to begin with the strict sanctions for those groups and individuals that are charged and found guilty of corruption. They need to be blacklisted and made unable to ever hold positions in local government in order to put a stop to the trend of individuals who leave one office under shared circumstances in one municipality and are found holding similar or same positions at another municipality. This trend renders the fight against corruption impractical. Local municipalities have always suffered a shortage of or a total lack of sound infrastructure. If it exists, it is
Conclude in 1 minute.
poorly maintained, and it remains in extremely poor conditions. Yet more and more funds are being allocated to the entities tasked with infrastructure delivery. The funds allocated to municipal infrastructure support agents should be utilized wisely in order to meet the aspirations of the National Development Plan. The IFP supports the budget vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Carter.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, from the heights of our first democratic election and the adoption of our Constitution, the reconstruction and reconfiguration and re-establishment of our structures and systems of governance across all three spheres of government, and to the hopes and aspirations of a better life for all. We face an unprecedented crisis, constitutionally, socio-economically, and governmentally, all of which is rooted in a political crisis of corrupted leadership, bad governance, and poor policy choices. Now, Chair, in his book, How to Steal a City, Crispian Alva, a local government specialist and ANC activist, documents how the entire administration of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro was captured, lock, stock, and barrel, and controlled by a criminal network and the dominant faction of the ANC. How its financial resources were bled dry by an ANC political elite and connected businessmen who effectively formed a criminal syndicate. How the resources, financial and otherwise, of a municipality were abused for factional battles within the ruling party and to bolster the ruling party in democratic elections, of dodgy tenders, kickbacks, shell companies, assassinations, and compromised local and provincial politicians of a ruling party, of dysfunctional failing service delivery and crumbling infrastructure. What this member of the erstwhile UDF found was the complete state capture of a Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, a microcosm of what has happened to our national government. Chair, the sad reality is that Oliver describes in his book is symptomatic of a rot in the governance of most municipalities under the majoritarian tyranny of a ruling party. I wonder how the Minister Mkhize feels, and I hope that he will respond in reply when he visits his hometown, the capital city of KwaZulu-Natal, Pietermaritzburg, and he sees the rot and the filth, decaying infrastructure, experiences the intermittent supply of water and disruptions to electricity as yet another aging and unmaintained transformer explodes, reads reports of a collapse of a city billing system and the near bankruptcy of its finances, experiences the incompetence of deployed cadres, let alone their complicity in complying with the instruction of a local criminal syndicate, comprising of members of a regional political elite and corrupted businessmen who loot and launder the financial resources of this municipality. It tends to yet another funeral of an assassinated councillor, hears the cries of a destitute and impoverished who seeks access to basic housing and services and employment as businesses either close or lose confidence in what was once the city of choice and relocate. Chair, if we are to halt the implosion of local government and return to the vision of good and progressive governance, we need to return to the values of good governance as enshrined in our Constitution. And good governance starts with the election of ethical political leadership. In this regard, COPE calls for the direct election of mayors. Furthermore, COPE agrees with the call by the Financial and Fiscal Commission that urban district councils be abolished and those in rural areas strengthened. And we agree with a growing concern about the financial sustainability of local government as a whole. And if one thinks that the ANC and the governance of municipality is poor and rotten, their behavior in the benches of the opposition, as witnessed in Nelson Mandela Bay, in Tshwane, and in Johannesburg, belongs like Andile Lenguisa, condemned, convicted, and behind bars. Thank you.
Your time has expired. Thank you, Honorable Carter. The Honorable Maluleke.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Ministers, Honorable members, our traditional leaders, our guests in the gallery, fellow South Africans, good morning. It is indeed an honor for me to debate this budget vote of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs this morning. This debate takes place at a time in which our country is filled with a positive mood because of commitment of the ANC government under the capable leadership of President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa to address political and socio-economic issues that have been troubling the country and its people. Most importantly, the debate takes place in a year in which we remember Me Albertina Sisulu and Isitalandwe, Utata Nelson Mandela on their centenary celebration. We are grateful for their sterling contribution to the liberation struggle and to their collective efforts to improve the lives of all South Africans. Chairperson, a most befitting dedication to Messi Sulu and Utata Madiba would be our renewed vigor and commitment to address the remaining patterns of apartheid system. The apartheid system forced our parents to the outskirts of cities where there were no economic activities. They had to live far from job opportunities and had to leave their families and live in hostels at cities where cities were only meant for the privileged. Honorable members, as the committee, we are pleased to report that with the budget we are debating today, this Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has plans in place to implement integrated urban development framework. The aim of this policy framework is to create a shared understanding across government and society about how best to manage urbanization in order to create resilient, inclusive cities and towns. The IUDF marks a new deal for South Africa, cities and towns, as its key objective is spatial transformation. The second phase of Back to Basics program draws our attention to this area. It requires government to accelerate economic and spatial transformation, central to which must be integration of plans, improvement, mobility, connectivity, creation of good living and working environment for all, especially the poor. In other words, our collective efforts that are aimed at advancing spatial transformation in our country must be guided norms and standards such as densifying cities, improving transport, locating jobs where people live, upgrading informal settlement, and fixing housing market gaps. The 54th ANC National Conference held in December 2017 resolved that both the ANC and government treat as priority efforts to address spatial transformation, integration, inclusion, and economic growth in the country. Central to this is the IUDF, which is a tool the country can use to reverse apartheid patterns. It provides a government-wide policy framework to create a common understanding on how the country can manage urbanization, which affects urban and rural municipalities. As we engage on matters of spatial transformation, we must remember that inhabitants or residents in the municipalities have a right to actively participate in decision-making processes on issues of the space where they live and work. This must happen because space is appropriated to enable people to be able to use the space for living, working, and sporting. Honorable Chair, at the center of promoting integration, connectivity, mobility, and economic growth in urban and rural space is infrastructure. Infrastructure development must be guided by our determination to densify cities, improve transport, locate jobs, and make sure that our people's living conditions are being improved for better. In developing our cities, small towns and rural areas, there is a need for infrastructure development, and we call upon the department to ensure that there is adequate investment, effective operation and maintenance of existing infrastructure. The departments need to accelerate infrastructure implementation maintenance plans so that they can afford those buildings to be maintained and be kept safe. We cannot afford to build beautiful infrastructures and fail to maintain them, Minister. Poor and rural municipalities should be our priority in as far as the development of infrastructure is concerned. These municipalities need assistance the most. For this reason, we must invest more resources on these municipalities. These municipalities require technical and capacity skills. We note that the minister and department will prioritize provision of infrastructure planning, delivery, operation, and maintenance in the 27 priority district municipalities and other 55 distressed or dysfunctional municipalities. To the Portfolio Committee, this is a step to the right direction. Honorable Chair, our people need service delivery as of yesterday. Yes, we note that there are some municipalities that are trying their best to improve the lives of our communities for better by providing them with basic services. But there are some municipalities that fail poor people. For an example, the DA-run metros of Joburg and Cape Town have recently lost nearly 540 million meant to cover cost of provision of infrastructure to poor households due to non-performance. This situation is a cause for concern. We urge the minister to obtain explanation and report to the committee. Chairperson, triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality continue to confront many of our people. This means that our democratic government, the department in particular, must continue to strengthen, expand public employment programs such as the Community Work Program. This program is important because it provides employment safety net for poor people who cannot access formal employment. We note with excitement research findings which indicate that Community Work Program has had a significant positive effect on levels of employment in our metros. And we urge the department to ensure that this is escalated even into our rural municipalities. Chairperson, corruption, maladministration, and fraud is a cancer that destroys our so hard-fought democracy, and it delays government efforts to accelerate the provision of adequate and quality service delivered to our people. President Matamela Ramaphosa made a promise to our people that corruption and fraud will be dealt with harshly by this ANC-carrying government. We are encouraged by the work of the minister and the department that they are processing forensic reports on the investigation of the allegation of corruption. And we need the report very soon, Mr. President. Chairperson, before I sit down, I just want to remind ourselves of the clarion call made by the President Ramaphosa of Tumamina. Yes, as we heed the call, let us say this little prayer. We pray that we be faithful and hardworking servants of our country. Tumamina, kia dumela. Tumamina, ANC supports the budget. Kia lebo.
Thank you, Honorable Maluleke. We now call the Honorable Matsipe. Ntate Matsipe.
In the current budget allocation, the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency notes that its task of assisting municipalities was gradually becoming more and more remote. The constraint in this regard is the inadequate internal capacity building to the provisioning of qualified technical professionals as well as their redeployment. The agency identified 25 district municipalities who were experiencing pressure due to lack of professionals. The agency faced also certain institutional changes. However, despite these challenges, the system of training and developing technical skills continued to address backlogs in the 27 prioritized district municipalities. The entity continued to address backlogs in the 27 prioritized district municipalities. Currently, MISA is deploying 100 artisans and wastewater process controllers to needy municipalities. This, Mr. Speaker, is a speed in the ocean given the large number of municipalities, ailing municipalities countrywide. However, MISA's ambitious program is likely not to be achieved as the agency's current budget decreases by 15%. The bulk of the budget reduction relates to the sub-program 2, that is technical services, which is pivotal to MISA's mandate. The funds allocated to this program cover the cost of remunerating technical professionals, rendering support to the needy municipalities. Less budget for this entity means less support for communities. The Commission for the Protection and Promotion of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Communities of South Africa receives a budget allocation of 43 million from DCOG with an increase of 0.5% compared to the previous financial year. Based on this budget, the Commission set out to achieve the following: conducting 18 capacity building workshops, 12 nation building dialogues, and 18 awareness campaigns as a way of engaging with communities on cultural matters. However, the Commission is unlikely to attain these objectives as the current budget decreases is less by 46.5% than the previous year. However, this is likely to comprise the Commission's legislative mandate to promote an understanding of its objectives, roles, activities, and as envisaged in Section 5 of the CRL Commissions Act. Beyond this, the Commission may be compelled to update Parliament regarding measures it intends undertaking to comply with Section 2.4, subsection 9 of the Act, which states that the Commission must convene consultative conferences during every term. This may prove difficult in the light of the budget cuts. We urge the Commission to seek sponsors for these events and as provided in the legislation. The present budget allocation to the National Disaster Management Center is aimed at promoting, integrating, and coordinating a system of disaster prevention, mitigating, and managing risk. The National Disaster Management Center's budget increases by 2.4%, which translates into 13.3 million in real terms. However, I must state that the bulk of this budget is concentrated on subsection 7, which is disaster relief grant. The disaster relief grant receives an additional 24.5 million in real terms for the 2019 financial year.
Your time has expired, Honorable Member.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We now call the Honorable Masondo.
Chairperson, Ministers Zweli Mkhize, Deputy Ministers Nel and Bapela, fellow South Africans. Local government is at the coalface of public service delivery and therefore central to advancing the national democratic revolution. Our local government system is guided by our struggle for a united, democratic, non-racist, non-sexist, and a prosperous South Africa. In 1994, when the ANC assumed power,
the Reconstruction and Development Program was pursued to put people first and focus on people's most immediate needs. In this regard, local government have an important role to play. It is against this backdrop that government has devoted much attention and resources to the local sphere of government in order to ensure its efficacy in line with constitutional imperatives. Chairperson, the ANC-led government has promised and or committed to all South Africans that it would improve the delivery of our local government services, that would invest and maintain infrastructure, and that will boost economic growth and help create much needed jobs for unemployed youth and women. Chairperson, the Constitution is grounded in the Freedom Charter, as we all know, which continues to be the foundation of a democratic South Africa. Furthermore, the Constitution enjoins all of us to build local government that has the capacity to provide democratic and accountable government for local communities, ensure the provision of services to communities in a sustainable manner, promote social and economic development, promote a safe and healthy environment, encourage involvement of communities and community organizations on matters of local government. We have committed to building sustainable municipalities that are well managed, committed to performance management and a high level of service delivery, with sound financial management and clean, healthy, and safe working environments. With regard to the poor and indigent, we have created a safety net of social services to restore their dignity. We have strengthened participatory democracy and to a great extent adhered to principles of Watopili. Our long-term goals outlined in the NDP are on Vision 2030. With measurable and attainable objectives, we seek to reduce inequality and to boost and achieve economic freedom for all our people. Through its programs and the building of a capable development state, the ANC will provide universal quality services to all. The second phase of Back to Basics will see the national government engage in a more active monitoring and ensure greater accountability measures. We will identify the root causes of problems in each municipality and intervene decisively. Chairperson, the basic services have been extended to more citizens than ever before. We are not, of course, oblivious to the challenges, all the challenges, which are a reflection of community frustration in both municipal leadership and governance in some of our municipalities. Chairperson, we have observed that DCOG, leading the IGR processes through the Interministerial Task Team, is assisting municipalities who are unable to pay. These have been identified and have developed repayment packages. The top 60 municipalities are prioritized to be assisted. To date, municipalities in the following provinces have been engaged to consider both bulk electricity and bulk water debt. Eastern Cape, Free State, Northern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, Gauteng, and Northwest. The remaining municipalities in Mpumalanga will be visited during April 2018. Of course, this is work in progress. Secondly, we know that the department has assisted municipalities to collect government debt through the implementation of simplified revenue plans in the Northern Cape, and that this has yielded successes as the total debt collected amount to 98 million rand at February 2018, and the departments have made commitments to pay 140 million rand as soon as the budget becomes available, at the beginning of 2018-19 financial year. Chairperson, the Integrated Urban Development Framework, IUDF, offers a new deal for towns and cities. It redefines our urban landscape in our efforts to eradicate the apartheid design spatial legacy, which was the master architect of a racially fragmented local government system. ANC and our constitution is clear on building a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous society. Cities and towns offer significant opportunities to address South Africa's challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. The aim of the IUDF is to create a shared understanding across government and society about how urbanization should be better managed to ensure livable, resilient, and inclusive settlement areas. According to the white paper on local government must play a developmental role. That its activities must improve socio-economic status of communities. It should target especially those members and groups within communities that are marginalized, such as women, disabled people, and the poorest of the poor. The Constitution states, Chairperson, that a municipality must structure and manage its administration, budgeting, and planning processes to give priority to the basic needs of the community, and that it must promote the social and economic development of the community and participate in national and provincial development programs. It's against this backdrop that local economic development is an approach towards economic development which allows and encourages local people to work together to achieve sustainable economic growth, thereby seeking to bring economic benefits and improve quality of life for all residents in a local municipal area. Revised National Framework for Local Economic Development is premised on the following principles, amongst others: collaborative partnerships, integrated place development that recognizes marginal territories such as townships, informal settlements, peri-urban areas, and rural settlements.
2 minutes left.
This can be appreciated in the way that the ANC executive mayor of City of Tshwane said when in the early part of 2016, that is Ramkhupa. Between 2011 until 2016, the city identified 6 core projects to revitalize township economies, namely Khora Community Bakery in Soshanguve, integrated vehicle washing facility in Mamelodi, a plastic manufacturing factory in Cullinan, a paper towel manufacturing factory in Mabupane, a brick and paving manufacturing factory in Mabupane, and of course the upgrading of the fresh produce market. With regard to fighting corruption, the first step is to recognize and admit that it does exist. We are committed to popularizing a new morality of services and integrity to fighting corruption and mismanagement at the local government level by ensuring that there are consequences for maladministration, mismanagement, fraud, and as well as corruption. We wish to state that parliamentary oversight mechanism will pay special attention to corruption. Others may talk about corruption, philosophers, and so on, but we in the ANC are doing something. And this something is there for everybody to see. In closing, in 2018, the African National Congress, in closing, the African National Congress will work continuously in the direction of ensuring that the quality of life of our people improves for the better. The ANC supports this budget vote, and we continue to do all the good work that needs to be done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Masondo. We now call the Honorable Minister for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs to close the debate. Can I plead that all those that have participated in the debate to listen to the responses that the minister will give? You may proceed, Minister.
Thank you very much. I wish we had more time. Then we can talk about all of this. I want to support the words of solidarity with the people of Palestine. I think it's very sad what happened in Gaza. It's very inhuman. But coming back to the issues raised here, one of the issues raised was around the financial recovery plans, or the recovery plans insofar as the financial management is concerned. Let me assure the members that we're sending teams that will be able to deal with issues of budget, to deal with issues of revenue generation, expenditure management, and we do want to see a turnaround on all of those, and we expect that there will be an impact of those teams. When we deal with the issues of VBS, it's also important to know that the issue is in the hands of the Reserve Bank, and there will not be arrests until there's a preliminary audit which is currently underway. Then we'll be able to know who needs to be brought into this. The Hawks are waiting on the side for that. But you won't jump into arresting until some preliminary information is available. I'm very pleased, ladies and gentlemen, members of this House, to see that the IUDF as a program gets support from all the parties. And I think it's an important issue because right now we're plagued by land invasions, which we need to be able to identify land ahead of time in municipalities so that we can actually disrupt the apartheid spatial planning and actually even change the approach to our housing models. And so I think more work is going to be done here, and certainly we'll need to put additional resources. Issue of corruption, we are similarly, want to endorse what has been raised by the members, and particularly those who are indicating the commitment of the African National Congress in fighting corruption. Inside COCTA, we've actually got an arrangement with the Hawks to be able to ensure that the departmental staff can interpret a lot of the reports that are coming from municipalities so that we can act. We are encouraging all the municipalities to continue acting, and we want them to act in the way the Chinese say, deal with flies and tigers alike, so that people must be acted upon irrespective of whether they're employees or elected representatives, and action has to be done at that level. We'll be monitoring all of that. With regards to the issue around ESCOM, we've submitted a package of issues that have to be dealt with. We've already raised the issue of writing off some of the debt, but there's a lot more to be dealt with, and I don't want to spend much time here. Just want to say that at a certain point, we will be tabling a report to the portfolio committee, so we want you to reserve your questions for that time. The issues around the death of councillors is a very sad situation, and we have to actually act on this. This together with any form of corruption, crime, we must all stand on the one side and stop politicizing it, and we must actually go and deal with crime irrespective. Whether the members involved in any criminal activity belong to a political party, it's immaterial. What's important is that we must act decisively on crime, and we undertake to do so. The issues around, the issues that have been raised, by the way, I think it was Honorable Carters who raised the issue of Crispy and Olva, who wrote How to Steal a City. Actually, I think we need to acknowledge the fact that that was based on the experience when they were deployed there by COCTA as to deal with the issues of back to basics and then to bring back the response. Well, we'll find it even if it's inside the DA. Even inside the DA, we'll deal with it. And even when the DA begins to use their factional fights to disrupt governance, we will investigate you if we think you are the cause. So we'll deal with everybody. We will deal with everybody. We do not fear. No fear, no favor. We will deal with everybody. And the issue of Peter Marisbeck, we will actually send a team to deal with it. We're right there.
Member.
And so I want to say to the honorable members, some of the reductions that you see in the budget is occasioned by the fact that we have to adjust the budget because of the belt tightening. We actually do understand that there will never be enough resources to finance those municipalities. Some of the challenges that you raise are actually structural. You talk about the old infrastructure, it's something that is there everywhere. But you must remember, wall-to-wall municipalities has actually redistributed to areas which were completely neglected. And so there will obviously be some areas where we'll have problems, but our focus has to be about building the revenue base in all the municipalities so that they must be able to deal with it. Ladies and gentlemen, members, we want to say thank you very much. Thanks for all your contributions, and we will investigate the infrastructure money that the 540 million that the member has raised. We are going to be dealing with the areas of Northwest, and don't celebrate. We will fix it, and when it is done,
Order.
well, I can
Order,
see that the
honorable
members
members.
are excited about the members of the African National Congress. We will deal with every problem where there are
Order.
irregularities. We will act on them without fear, without favor, and you can trust on us to turn the whole all the municipalities around.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Order. Honorable members, let's thank the minister and the deputy ministers and the members that participated in the debate, as well as the members that attended, together with our guests for being in this chamber today. Members are reminded that the debate on trade and industry budget vote will take place at 14 hours in the National Assembly chamber. The debate on public works budget vote will take place at 14 hours in the old Assembly chamber, which is here. And the debate on international relations and cooperation budget vote will take place at 14 hours in committee room E249. That concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary. This mini plenary will now rise.